Yeah, this is I Aspire Radio, the first online motivational radio station. And what we want to do at this point is to increase the capability of people through project management methodology to start and grow their business. What we want to do today is to look at the 10 knowledge areas. The 10 knowledge areas are fantastic areas you need to touch before you can conclude that you have gone through the process of starting and building a great business. I have with me here Obimbe Adegoke. Hi Obimbe, how are you today?
I'm fine, Charles. Happy to be here today.
Okay, my name is Charles Ife, your business startup coach. What we're doing today is to look at all the 10 knowledge areas and see how we could just touch and give you a brief of what they are, because we're going to go into details some other time. Today we'll be looking at the 10 knowledge areas. What's the first knowledge area, Obimbe?
The first knowledge area will be talking about the integration process.
Okay.
And at this stage is where we are trying to bring together what we want to do, and then we're talking about developing the project charter, and then we'll develop also the project management plan. Then we'll talk about how we want to direct and manage the projects, as well as the processes we want to have in place for the monitoring and control of the project work, as well as performing integrated change control before we talk about closing up the project.
Okay, so what happens in the integration section is that we focus on things we need to do to start.
Exactly. It tells us what exactly we are looking at in the holistic picture of the project.
Wow. So at this stage, what we're looking at is structurally the charts, the architecture of everything we were going to go to.
And that's why the name integration comes into play. It integrates all the work that needs to be done on the project.
Fantastic. Okay, the other one is scope management. Scope management is a part which I like most. And the reason why I like scope management is because it talks about scope. And what scope talks about is what needs to be done in the project, what needs to be done, and what needs not to be done, which is actually an exclusion. And what scope does is, at this stage, what we do is that we plan scope management, we collect requirements. I love the part of collecting requirement because how important is requirement to them?
Most times people go into projects without even getting to understand what they intend to achieve.
Wow.
The collect requirements is one that tells you what exactly the customers will be expecting, the clients will be expecting,
the deliverables, expectations.
You collect all this information from all the key stakeholders and everyone.
Okay, at that point, what happens when you don't collect a requirement that's very important?
During the course of the project, or probably at the end, you'll be having a scope creep, where you'll be having so many people say so many things that I would have wanted this would have come into plan, this would have come into place, and then you start having scope creep all over the place.
Okay, so at this point also in the under scope management knowledge area, we look at defining scope, and at that point we define what scopes are from A to B, nothing more. C is not added, and so if someone is coming with something new, we say, okay, let's create a new charter for this and all that. We also talk about WBS. What is a WBS?
The WBS is a work breakdown structure. It is the one that gives the whole architecture of what the work needs to be done, that is to be done. That is to say, you will see the clear picture how the work is going to be broken down from the main work down to the little element, the work packages of the project.
Okay, work breakdown structure, to me in PMP exam, I always tell people when you don't know the answer and there's a work breakdown structure in one of the options, please pick the work breakdown structure, because that is actually the work that needs to be done. And at that point, there's a point that you need to validate scope, where you monitor and control scope, and you move on to the next stage. What's next stage, knowledge area?
The next knowledge area we'll be talking about is time management. It's very important that most times when we are to deliver projects, we don't just talk about delivering the project, but we also deliver it on time.
Wow.
Imagine you having a wedding on the 15th and somebody is delivering your wedding cake on the 17th. Even though the cake is very sweet and fantastic, it's of no value because the time of delivery does not meet up.
Yes.
So in project management, one key that you must put into place is the time management.
There's something I need to say. There's no excuse for a project management to say that, oh, I'm sorry, my team member messed me up, that's why I delivered on the 17th instead of 16th. Exactly. Because number one, who takes responsibility for the success and the failure of a project?
The project manager is responsible for delivering the project as agreed in the work breakdown structure. And you must also note that while talking about the time management, you need to plan the schedule management. This is where you begin to say, okay, what do we have to do as regards to time? We define all the activities, every element. This will be revealed to us in the work breakdown structure.
Of course.
By the time you look at the work breakdown structure, you see the work packages and then you see the activity list. Then you begin to sequence them. Which one comes before which one?
Order.
Exactly, the order in which these activities are to be done. You need to have the building built first before you talk about painting.
Yes.
So these activities, they come in sequence. You look at them and they talk about the activity, the estimate activity resource. What are the resources that you need to execute this project?
Okay, what I want to talk about the estimate activity duration. At this point, what we do is to focus on each activity, like you said, that has been broken down to work packages, and see how these activities carry weight. What duration would it take? So we can do a bottom-up estimation or analogous estimation or whatever type of estimation. Okay?
And then you'll be able to see clearly. That's what will tell you the duration of that project. And by the time you now have the estimate duration of the project, you can draw up a schedule. And that will now tell you, okay, for month 1, this is what we're going to be achieving. For the second month, this is what we'll be having. And then you put your control schedule in place. Okay. So I'm able to check what are we supposed to do, and what are we doing. Are we still going to be able to meet up with the time for the delivery of the project?
So what control schedule does is to look at what did we say we're going to do on this activity, how much time did we use, why did we happen, so that we can know the lessons learned. The next process is actually what's called knowledge area, called cost knowledge area. Cost knowledge area, practically, like we know, is to look at the various cost elements in the project. The direct cost, the indirect cost, the fixed cost and the variable cost. What's the fixed cost of it?
This way you begin to look at costs that you're going to back on the project that are fixed irrespective of the number of times that
the production level or the number of projects you're doing on duration. Also, we look at the estimate cost, because at this point we want to estimate what our cost is. And like you did in time management, what we're going to do in this point is to look at the elements of cost from a bottom level down to the top level, and we do an aggregation of this cost and look at it. Also, we need to use that to determine our budget, because the cost is a function of the budget. At the end of the day, we have a total budget that we need to look at. And during the full discussion, we'll be looking at the details of determination of cost. And the last thing is to control cost, because one of the things that happens in cost is that you hear about projects that they say that we overshoot the budget. We overshoot the budget. That should not happen when you monitor costs and you control costs.
As a project manager, once you already have the work breakdown structure in place, it tells you all the elements that makes up the project. From there, you're able to see each item. You'll be able to determine the cost of every one of these. And then when you now sum it up, it tells you the budget for the project. And the cost control also helps you in monitoring everything that you're spending on the cost.
Okay, what about quality management?
Yeah, that's the next knowledge area that we will also look into. The quality management talks more about the level to which you meet the degree of requirement that you have collected initially. Now you are looking at a particular requirement you want to meet up with, and you want to ensure that it meets up with global standards. So you talk about plant quality management, perform quality assurance, and then you also control your quality.
Okay, the next one is what's called human resources knowledge areas. What we want to do at this point is to look at what are the resources we need to perform these activities. Remember, we talked about activities the other time during the work breakdown structure. So what we do at this point is that we look at plant human resources. We look at acquire project team. How do we acquire project team? We're also going to talk about this in details. We look at how to develop our team, because we need to equip our team to be able to perform this work. And we also need to manage our project team.
Yeah, and that takes us to the next knowledge area, which is the communications, where we begin to talk about plan communications, manage communications, control communications.
Okay, then the last one before we get to the stakeholder management is risk responses. How do you plan for risk? And we'll look at the risk elements in each project and how we can come back. So at this point, I want to say thank you for listening to I Aspire Radio, the Nigerian first motivational radio. My name is Charles Efe, your business startup coach, and I have with me my good friend Obembe Adegoke. I'll see you next week. Do have a great weekend.